Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order, a meeting of the regular board meeting, public session, December 13th, 2023. Item 3.1, an acknowledgement of territorial lands. In the spirit of truth and reconciliation, we acknowledge that we are gathered on the customary and traditional lands of the Indigenous peoples of this territory. Item 4.1, would you please rise and join in a singing of our national anthem? Mr. Director, would you take roll call, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And through you, this is your roll call for December 13th, 2023, public session. Chair Schooler.
Present.
Vice Chair Johnston.
Present.
Trustee Danaher.
Present.
Trustee Dufour.
Present.
Trustee Francis. Trustee Francis. Trustee Jordan.
Present.
Trustee Labonte.
Present.
Trustee McAllister. Trustee McAllister. Trustee McDonald.
Present.
Trustee Parisian.
Present.
Trustee Swan. Trustee Swan. Student Trustee Ali.
Present.
Student Trustee Verk.
Present.
Mr. Chair, you have quorum.
Thank you. Item 6.1, the approval of consent agenda items 6.2 to 6.3. Moved by Trustee Labonte, seconded by Trustee McDonald, that the Upper Canada District School Board approve consent agenda items 6.2 to 6.3, December 13th, 2023, as submitted. Please cast your vote online. I approve.
Trustee Danaher in favor.
Trustee Jordan, just waiting for your vote. That motion passes. Item 7.1, conflict of interest declarations. Seeing none. Item 8.1, Director of Education remarks. Mr. Director.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Hard to believe, but the holiday season is upon us, and you're traveling to our schools. You're seeing lots of concerts and lots of events and activities, and I know trustees are doing their best to get around to their schools to take part in those. So I want to wish everybody a happy and safe holidays. And if you celebrate Christmas like I do, I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Director. Item 9.1, Chair of the Board remarks. On Monday this week, I had the pleasure of attending a Hill 70 in-service at the Brockville Legion. It was attended by a number of staff, both elementary and secondary, and was led by Blake Seward. It was a fascinating morning, and I applaud the work of the staff involved. We also had some students from BCI, I believe, who shared with us some of their research and their projects. There's definitely a connection that is being made with communities, and I applaud Blake Seward for his work in this regard. Thank you. And we move on to item 10.1. And today we are showcasing one of our schools, South Edwardsburg Public School.
Welcome to South Edwardsburg Public School, home of the Rocket Bears. Our school was established in 1961 and is located in Johnstown, near the banks of the beautiful St. Lawrence River.
After the 2018 school year, South Edwardsburg and Benson Public School in nearby Cardinal amalgamated and a new mascot was created. By merging the Rockets from South Ed with the Bears from Benson, we created the Rocket Bear. South Ed students are offered a variety of learning opportunities both inside and outside of the classrooms where students' thinking, voice, and wellness are valued.
Currently, the science of reading is being implemented in all classes to support every child's right to read. Teachers are using reading and phonics assessments to collect data through programs like Haggerty, UFly, Morphe Magic, and Advanced Word Study.
My favorite thing about South Edwardsburg is that we have lots of learning opportunities and we have lots of intramurals and sports.
I like math because every day we're learning something new.
South Edwardsburg staff have a growth mindset. They are open to new learning opportunities and have worked alongside our learning partners to implement best practices to teach our students using state-of-the-art techniques.
We are proud of our Family Literacy Night, where parents and guardians learn strategies they can use at home that reflect the instructional practices implemented in the classroom.
We have a lot of opportunities to learn, and we have extracurricular activities where you can choose which ones you want to do, and you can just look forward to it.
I just like playing soccer at recess with a bunch of my friends. There's not as much kids here, so it's a lot more fun playing the small sports, so it's not crowded on the big fields and that stuff.
This year, we are adding a family math night with opportunities for parents and guardians to experience the teaching methods used in their child's classroom to support them at home.
At South Edwardsburg, we've set a goal that 100% of our students should feel mentally healthy. To help reach this goal, we encourage students to participate in sports, intramurals, clubs, or hang out in Club 1 or 2. These activities teach responsibility, skills, and perseverance, all the character traits we want students to have when they move on from our school.
I like all the nice teachers because they teach in many different ways.
Every teacher here and the substitutes are very great, and they always listen to what everybody has to say.
My favorite thing about school is my teachers. My favorite thing is chocolate milks. A big part of our school is the strong connection we have with our many community partners and volunteers. They assure our students have what they need to be successful. For instance, every Tuesday and Thursday morning, dedicated volunteers prepare hot breakfast for all students funded by generous community partners. These volunteers are part of our team and help read with our students, volunteers on field trips, and coach our teams.
We have a very active school council who help with fundraising and learning initiatives like dance-a-thons, jungle sport, and character presentations. Our new outdoor classroom was just completed in October with their generous help.
These smaller schools can create really tight-knit relationships among the students, and then that trickles out into the community. So we have a really tight-knit school, and then we have the tight-knit community, and it's really great.
Our dedicated staff believes that a sense of belonging is connected to a positive and calm learning environment, and offer learning through a variety of different real-world experiences and activities.
Local businesses have stepped up to participate and develop leadership skills for students that will prepare for their next chapter.
Recently, students have created a pitch to a major corporation about recycling and waste reduction, in which the company accepted. It provided each student with a reusable water bottle to cut down on the use of single-use plastics. At South Edwardsburg, we look forward to our growth by laying a strong foundation for our students to thrive.
What a wonderful community school. Trustee Swan has the pleasure of representing that school, but I believe we've lost her internet connection. So Superintendent Loshaw, would you like to say a few words about that South Edwardsburg School?
Through your chair, I absolutely would. As the family of schools superintendent, I have the pleasure of speaking with Principal Danielle Willette on a regular basis. I know that Danielle is incredibly proud of the sense of community that is experienced at South Edwardsburg Public School. There very much is a team approach, and as shown in the video, we know that there are many community partners. There are very clear school goals, and a tremendous amount of pride is taken in reaching those goals. And I think it's fantastic that students were able to articulate the focus of that the school has currently, including the focus on chocolate milk. So I think that's wonderful.
Thank you. Item 11.1, Director's Work Plan, an update on staff culture. And we will be hearing from Jeremy Hobbs, Executive Superintendent of Business Services, and Jim Guerin, the Manager of Information Technology Services. Gentlemen.
I'll just kick it off, Mr. Chair. And it's as trustees may be aware, we've, for starting in around 2013, we were challenged by a previous board to develop some tools to assist in our communication with parents specifically. And as a result of that, we launched the My Family Room parent portal in around 2014. And over the course of the last 10 or so years have continued to invest in that by adding functionality to it. With some short pauses in around the COVID timeframe. But we've actually, in the last couple of years, have recently resumed that. Both refreshing the actual platform and adding new functionality in response to trustee work plan or trustee ideas last year that were included in the director work plan. And through that time, the entire 10 years, most of it, I've been able to work with Jim Guerin on this, who's established his leadership over the department and also with this particular project. And so he's here tonight to share with you an update on where we stand with regard to the next evolution of My Family Room.
Thank you, Superintendent Hobbs. I'm really pleased to bring forward this Director's Work Plan update tonight, specifically around the Parent Document Repository Initiative with a focus on electronic report cards as our initial area of focus. Okay, so to increase ease of access for parents and reduce staff workload and the board's environmental footprint, the ITS department has embarked on this journey to implement electronic document repository for parents. This does align with the director's work plan goal, which is to ensure that staff feel supported by the district in their work and have the resources they need to be successful. After some early research and comparison between different platforms, the My Family Room stood out as the clear choice to build out this new functionality and capability. One of the major contributing factors to that, as Mr. Hobbs alluded to, is that there were supporting projects underway, which included upgrading the My Family Room parent application and the school to-do list application that school administrators use to manage all tasks related to My Family Room. So these projects were already in the pipeline anyways, but they provide a very solid foundation for this service because we had some future ambitions of layering on electronic document delivery on top of that. This project is scheduled to complete the requirements and design phases by June 2024, aligning with the 2023-24 Director's Work Plan success factors. So just to expand a little bit on the decision to go with My Family Room, this does align with our long-standing vision to provide a single UCDSB branded point of access for parents to conduct transactions with their child's school and view information relevant to their child's learning. As of today, we have over 20,000 parents and guardians signed up for My Family Room already, and 89% of the UCDSB student base having at least one parent with a My Family Room account. This actually presents a secure channel already, to a pre-established user base to deliver confidential documents to parents. And as well, with My Family Room, we can aggregate content from multiple sources, but present those documents to parents in a unified manner. The benefit there is, like, we have documents in multiple systems, IEPs, report cards, those are two to name a few. And instead of giving parents access to all those different platforms, we can give them access to one. Some additional benefits of moving to paperless report cards. I'd like to hone in a little bit on the parent satisfaction bullet, which is, to automatically distribute report cards to multiple parents and make them more readily available. There's some obvious benefits in there, which is, parents don't have the hassle of dealing with damaged report cards or lost report cards and following up with their school. But there's some lesser obvious benefits in there, which is, when you move to the electronic world, you have the ability to distribute report cards to multiple parents simultaneously, which can be advantageous in, for example, families where you have parents at different home addresses, for example. And then speaking to the staff effort bullet, when we did a business case for this project early on, we estimated a 60% decrease in staff workload related to activities around printing, signing, labeling, and stuffing envelopes with report cards. And then the last two bullets were not the main reasons we initiated this project, but I think they're worthwhile pointing out nonetheless, in that we are reducing our environmental footprint and reducing our consumable costs by going with this project. Many considerations with this project, but bringing four to the forefront this evening. Early on in the project, we discovered very quickly that there's a lack of explicit guidance from the ministry on how to deliver electronic documents electronically. There's a lot of guiding documents, but they're all rooted in the paper-based world of creating and delivering report cards. So our team has had to do a lot of interpretation of those requirements, and it'll also mean that we have to do multiple layers of vetting of those requirements with different stakeholder groups as we move through the project. We also have to remember that as good as the uptake stats are that I shared earlier, we do have to make sure that we don't lose sight of the families who have no parents with My Family Room, and we need to accommodate those non-digital families. And part of that is just by supporting schools. For example, giving them the insights into which families don't have, or which students in their school have no parents with My Family Room, so that they can provide a good service to those families as well. We recognize that there's variances in current school processes, and to that end, we have formed an advisory group of school administrators to help us tease out some of those variances, which is an important piece of work because that will help us with our change management strategy a little bit farther down the road in this project. And then lastly, information privacy and security, which are really two different things. Information privacy just speaks to the importance of making sure report cards are delivered to the appropriate people, and security is really around how do we make sure that the platform is secure. And what we typically do in those situations is we go out to external third parties to do what we call penetration testing to make sure that there's no vulnerabilities in the platform that can be exploited. This quick snapshot of the project implementation time frame. We did start back in the spring of 2023. Once we made the decision to go with My Family Room, we felt like it was important to invest some time in doing what we call a technical proof of concept. And really what this is a complete end-to-end simulation of exporting report cards from PowerSchool all the way through to publishing them to parents through My Family Room. That proof of concept was successful, and it gave us the confidence to move forward in the project with this strategy. The middle row there represents where we are today. In my opinion, probably the most important phase of this project, which is the definition of the business and functional requirements. The output of this stage is going to be an initial proposal that we will take around to different stakeholder groups for vetting, just to make sure that we didn't miss anything or make mistakes. There will be a period of vetting where, like I mentioned, we will go to like the program department, we'll go to school administrators and various stakeholder groups to make sure that our proposal is good. And then we will actually start building the solution out, layering this into the existing My Family Room platform. The output of this phase by August of 2024 would be what we consider a launch-ready solution so that we're ready to go for the next school year. And in summary, the My Family Room application will be the application used to distribute electronic report cards, due mostly in part to the heavy uptake by parents and its ability to present documents in a unified manner. The benefits of moving to paperless report cards include reduced staff workload in preparing report cards to go home, the reduced environmental footprint, and increased access for parents. And I'd like to conclude by saying the project is on track at this time to meet goals and timelines as defined in the 23-24 Director's Work Plan, with a goal to fully roll out the electronic report cards process in the 2024-25 school year. And with that, Mr. Chair, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Are there any questions or comments that anyone might have? Trustee Labonte?
Thank you, through you, Chair. Being as we haven't had any direction from the ministry, is there any way that we can save ourselves some effort and tell the ministry what to do?
Could you please? Thank you.
I wish. Good luck to whoever wants to take that one on. In all seriousness, Trustee, the way we work, we encounter these things frequently, where we're sort of a little bit ahead of where perhaps the ministry may be. And so what we try to do is, number one, is stay in bounds. So there's some obvious things that we can do to, I think pretty clearly live within the prevailing sort of constraints that we have. And then we also try to design in anticipation of what future guidance might look like. And a good example of this one is we won't have a mechanism, for example, initially for parents to sign the report cards electronically. Because there's really the technology is too much for us to take on in this short time frame, but also there isn't a lot of guidance with respect to whether that's legitimate, that would satisfy the criteria for report cards. But we do have a strategy going forward, should that come to fruition, that we can sort of build that in. So short answer is we try to stay within bounds about the clear rules and stay inside those bounds for what we know, but also build in anticipation of what future guidelines might look like.
Thank you. This is just a great piece of work. I'm glad to see it for all the benefits that you articulated. Thanks. Thank you, Chair.
Are there any other questions or comments? Yes. Trustee Parisienne?
Thank you. Maybe being a parent that has done all the versions of your My Family Room, this is by far my favorite version. I have found it most accessible and it's the easiest one to navigate and to also understand, where you can log into as well. Before we had a lot of difficulty logging in. I never got to use any of the other components other than reporting absences. So I'm excited. Hopefully I'll get to see. I got 2.5 more years left of school. So I'm hopeful to see how we can roll it out into a more electronic format. Considering now everything that we receive is electronic, all of our daily announcements, everything. So it'll be great to see. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you, gentlemen. Excellent report. Moving on to item 11.2, Director's Work Plan, a report on student culture. And I would call upon Superintendent of Schools, Marcia McNair, and a research officer with the board, Dr. Kathleen Moss.
Through you, Chair, Dr. Moss and I are pleased to be here this evening to share results as well as next steps from our fall student climate surveys. To begin with, we'd like to show you a short video of the elementary student voice sessions which occurred in November. Following the video, Dr. Moss will discuss the data collected as well as detail out some information from the sessions. And of course, we will take any questions following our presentation. So Lisa, if you don't mind sharing the video, that would be great.
We're in Cornwall today with groups of students, the principal and the teacher from each school. They are currently working through their school climate survey results, which was a survey the schools did recently. The goal is for schools to go through the data, to combine that with student voice, so we hear about what students' experiences of school are, the stories behind the data, and then schools are challenged to come up with a plan to improve on that data, specifically in the areas of mental health and wellness and inequity.
So far, my day has been awesome. I've learned a lot more stuff about my school than I did before. A lot of people have been saying thank you. I've noticed that a lot in my school. And a lot of great ideas from other kids' schools.
Today we've been learning about equity, and we've also been learning how's it like using the materials, and do you feel safe in your school. Today has been a really fun day.
We are from the School of Winchester, and our day is going very good.
Having a bunch of teachers that you can trust, that they will help you with learning and stuff when you need it, and just socializing with your teachers and staff members at your school.
We've been thinking of some things to help the school, and some kids in our school are afraid to be bullied, so we've been thinking of ways to stop the bullying.
We're writing the things, like the problems that are in our schools, on notes, and going to other tables, to other schools, which they have ideas to fix them.
Here's some things that we do and are going to do for our school. One, we're going to learn more about the people's cultures. Two, we're going to have an eco group club. We will use our wits, walk away, ignore, talk it out, and seek help.
Equality is like a scale. At first, it's perfectly balanced. But if you add too much to one side, it falls. The thing is, it's not as easy as a scale. You can't easily make it equal. Again, mental health is an example of that. There's things you can do to help, things you can say, like, here, let me help you fix your problems. How can I help? Then they ask for help, make a time so you can talk one-on-one with them. A lot of kids find mental health challenging because they have been not treated nicely by other people and not been treated equally. I don't think that's the world we want to build. We should try and build a world where everybody is safe and equal.
Through you, Chair.
We're happy to share the results of the Amplify Student Voice Survey, as well as details from the Student Voice sessions held in November and December. If I could take a minute, I would like to recognize a few students who did participate in the student sessions. On the top there, those two students, those are Lillian and Quinn. They're from Maple Grove Public School, and they participated in our Student Voice sessions. And they spent the afternoon reviewing the strengths and the areas for improvement in their school data. And here they're showcasing some of their coding skills. I think they might be future researchers in training up there. And then we also have the table of students and teachers. This is a shout out to Stewart Public School. And the student at the podium is Will. And Will is a grade 5 student in Chesterville Public School who was featured in the video we just saw. And Will gave a speech on strategies to improve student mental health. And Will summed up the day by saying, we want to build a world where everybody is safe and equal. And I think that's really the purpose for the Amplify survey, as well as the student voice sessions. We do want 100% of our students to report that school is safe, inclusive, and we all have promoting a sense of well-being. Lisa warned me that we have some tech issues. One more. Under the Safe Schools Initiative, every public school in Ontario is required to collect school climate data for students, parents, and staff. This work aligns with the director's work plan under student culture, which is to enhance student mental and physical health and sense of belonging. There are many challenges with collecting climate data, but we gather a lot of data, important data from students, but sometimes we don't always report back on that information or really understand the information that we've collected. Students become skeptical about surveys because they've never really heard anything back from us. And then at the school level, schools have the School Improvement and Equity Plan, which requires them to develop the mental health and wellness and equity goals, and that is based upon school climate survey data. And then at the student level, where do we engage the students? At what point in this process? And students need to be involved in coming up with solutions because they are the ones who really understand what it's like to be a student. And the goals of the Board Improvement and Equity Plan, school climate falls under 100% of schools will report that school is safe and inclusive and positively influences their mental health, wellness, and sense of belonging. For the strategies for collecting the data, we're looking at the action plan there in yellow, and that's the we asked, you said, we're doing cycle. And the school climate data informs the School Improvement and Equity Plan, and specifically the key piece there is a sense of belonging. Data needs to be turned into action to be useful. And this cycle needs to be continuous and reporting back at each stage so that students feel that we are listening to them. This leads to improved and actionable data. When we look at the circle up there, the we asked is the giving context to why we're surveying and sharing back survey results with students and the community. And the you said, engaging students in those student voice sessions, the feedback from students. And the we're doing, the staff and students working together to address concerns and to come up with those solutions. Having multiple levels of data ensures our climate surveys are student-centered, they're current, the data is reliable, and also it represents all voices from students. For the WOBS data, the We All Belong survey, this was not an anonymous survey, and this data was collected looking at demographic and pairing it with climate data. Then we focused on school climate data, which was anonymous data, and that was a culmination of the We All Belong survey. That was 21 questions. So we really pared down, it's almost like a pulse survey that did happen in schools. And the last piece to that, but probably the most important piece, is the student voice piece. And this is where we had an opportunity to invite students from across the board, both in elementary and secondary, to our information sessions or our student voice sessions 3 times to get a sense of what did they think, what were some of their opinions of the data from their own school, and going through and looking at some of the positive effects, looking at some of the negative effects that impact mental health and equity, as well as sense of well-being. So actionable data is important. So for this slide, I'm not going to go over a lot of it. Just to say that the survey was open for 1 week. It was voluntary. So teachers did administer the survey in class to all grade 4 and 11 students. Parents could opt out, and the survey was anonymous. So students were only asked about their grade in school, and there was no personal information was required on the survey at all. And it was confidential. It was 21 questions, and we're going to be repeating the survey again in April. And for that iteration, we want to stick to those 21 questions, but from the feedback that we get from the student consultations as well as the staff feedback, it might be modified slightly, those 21 questions. But again, we do want that baseline. We have a baseline right now, and we do want to see the monitoring and tracking of the questions such as the sense of well-being, the caring adult, extracurricular. Those are really all the core questions in the survey. For response rates, just over 19,000 students were sent the survey from grades 4 to 12. We had just over 11,000 students complete the survey, which lands us at a 60% response rate for grades 4 to 12. For grades 4 to 8, it was a 75% response rate. And again, these are very robust response rates, the highest response rates that we have had for a climate survey. As well as in secondary, 9 to 12, it's a 45% response rate. 3 themes emerged from the results, and they're grouped into equity and inclusion, mental health and wellness, and real-world learning. And sense of belonging, the question sense of belonging really anchors all of the themes that you see here. And this work is really connected. Sense of belonging connects to equity and inclusion. It connects to mental health, as well as RWL. And again, I sound like a broken record, but again, through the Board Improvement and Equity Plan, really the goal is that 100% of the students will report that school is inclusive, that it's safe, and also promotes a sense of well-being. So that sense of well-being is so important and integral in all of those different themes. The first set of results under equity and inclusion, the majority of students in grades 4 to 12 reported a sense of belonging. Oh, sorry, I skipped ahead again. Yeah, reported a sense of belonging, that they were safe, and they were able to build friendships at school, and this is consistent with the We All Belong survey results. 69% feel that they belong at school. For secondary, this does drop to 63%, feeling a sense of belonging. 76% report that they're able to build friendships with other students. This is 80% in elementary and 71% in secondary. And again, the majority of our students do feel that they're safe in school. In the student voice sessions, students were tasked with answering the question, what factors positively and negatively impact mental health and wellness and equity? And students wrote one idea per Post-it note, and they shared it on the chart paper. And here I've captured a few ideas from 3 students around factors that positively impact equity and inclusion. And so the first Post-it note, if you can't read it, it says, people make you feel like you belong. And the second Post-it note is teachers helping and not judging you. And the third is going to school every day and seeing my friends. So this is feedback right from students that are putting down their ideas on these sticky notes, putting them on chart paper, and it really does reinforce looking at some of the factors that does impact equity and inclusion. When we look at mental health and wellness, the second theme, here we have the majority of students reporting, oh, again. It's skipping on me. Okay, thank you. The majority of students report a caring adult at school, are aware of mental health supports, and feel tired in the morning. And again, this is consistent with the We All Belong survey. 80%, I'm not even touching it. Oh, okay, sorry. 80% report a caring adult, and this is 84% in elementary and 76% in secondary. Overall, 75% of students report feeling tired in the morning. 42% feel stressed and pressured, and the data does show that this increases to 56% of students in secondary feeling stressed or pressured. Again, reading the Post-it notes, students wrote down factors that positively impact their mental health and wellness. And the first sticky note says, being able to talk to an adult. And the second one is being kind. And she's got in little boxes there, it says, you're pretty or you're smart, little positive affirmations. We had schools like Glen Tay, for example, sorting out positive and negative impacts under themes such as sports, extracurricular, caring adults, friends, and play structure. So as you're circulating around the room, each school had their chart paper up with the positives and the negatives, and many schools went and they thematized all of the positives and the negatives under themes that were relevant to their own school, which was, and again, I think researchers in action there. When we're looking at real-world learning, the majority of students reported that they enjoyed participating in group projects and believed that learning is preparing them for the next steps in their learning journey. 56% are interested in topics discussed in class, and this speaks to the engagement piece. 61% of students in elementary are interested in topics, and at secondary, it's 52%. 50% see connections between what they're learning and their own life. 64% of students believe that learning is preparing them for the next steps in their learning journey. And again, the student Post-it notes speak to factors that positively impact school climate. So this is looking at both the emotional, mental health, equity, and wellness. And a lot of students put, frankly, RWL projects as contributing a factor to their mental health and also as an equity and inclusive issue. And another sticky note there was, I think connecting about things that we like makes kids happy. And I think that that's really a testament to if you're motivated and you feel like you're connecting to something, you're going to learn. And it makes kids happy. And I think that the third Post-it note there says, I think that RWL projects and sports at school are helping increase wellness and equity. Again, tying that in back to equity and inclusion. For student feedback, again, we're tracking and monitoring schools by twice a year biannually now. We'll be collecting student climate data both in October as well as in April, and creating our mental health and wellness goals, and that'll fold into the the school improvement and equity plan. And this evidence will help support the achievement and the well-being of our students. And again, coming back to the Board Improvement and Equity Plan, that we really want, school climate is really centered around 100% of our students in school. We really want them to feel safe, included, and feeling that sense of belonging. And closing off, schools will develop their plan. The next plan is schools will develop their plan, but right now, actually, they're already in the process of working through some of those plans after coming to our sessions. And schools will share these goals with both their school teams as well as the school community. We're going to do a redo in April to collect the same data, the baseline data, and then have the students back again with their school teams in May to report on the school successes, what they've learned, the next steps, and to be prepared to also share with other schools what their school is working through in their plan, and everyone learning together that way. And this also gives us a chance to provide feedback on the process, what worked for these sessions, what didn't work. And as we finish off, I just want to share that students complete an exit card at the student voice sessions, and 98%, that's right, 98% of our students attended felt heard. And 100% of our students felt that school was able to come up with a good plan. So they did feel that they were able to come up with an action, some of those positive, even the negative data, as well as coming up with a mental health goal and an equity goal. And 99% of our students enjoyed hearing about what other schools were doing. And that really was one of the highlights for a lot of schools, is that a lot of students, they were there not doing an extracurricular or intramural. They were there to talk about their school climate with other students. And they don't really get an opportunity many times to really do that, to engage with other schools. When asked about how we could improve the session, the majority of the students answered they wanted more time generating ideas with their table mates, and they wanted to talk to more schools. And many comments were they didn't want to change a thing. They thought that the outcome, they thought the sessions were perfect as they were. So this is some really great quality feedback, I think, for the students' voice sessions. And with that, I will turn things over to Superintendent McNair.
Thank you, Dr. Moss. Learning alongside our students at our recent student voice sessions has been both informative and rewarding. We asked, they said, and now it is our turn as the adults to respond and support the goals and action plans that each elementary and secondary school across our district are implementing. We look forward to bringing back the school teams in May 2024 to share and further learn from each other. At this time, Chair, we turn it over to you for any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent McNair and Dr. Moss. Excellent work. Are there any questions or comments? Yes, Student Trustee Verk.
Just one thing, just a comment that I wanted to bring up. I think the fact that the mental health messaging being brought up to students this early is something very unique I've seen happen here, and I think it's a wonderful thing to have. The fact that students are able to have their voices heard just like this early on, it really it helps them feel like their voice is heard and they're able to articulate themselves to maybe become leaders later on in their lives. And if this were to happen when I was in elementary school, I would be all for it. But yeah, it's a wonderful opportunity to see them getting involved this early on and just seeing its transparency and how that we're looking to actively resolve our elementary students' concerns and needs as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Trustee McDonald.
Excellent information that you presented. More importantly, thank you for doing it. And I think it's important that we look at slide 5 and do the same thing. We asked, you said, now it's our part. What are we going to do? And to the slide 4, where the challenge is, we gather a lot of important data. Now what are we going to do with it? And I think that's incumbent upon us to make sure that we do something with it. And so as we build the pieces that are in place around equity, inclusion plans, mental health, everything else, we also start to look at our board plan and develop, the things that we need to do are important, and then let the director do some things around the director's work plan. But then we get out of the way and let it happen, and we support it financially and let it happen. And I think, what we've been able to do so far, we've tried to do in the past with similar surveys using an outside agency, but it was a long process. The uptick wasn't as good. And in order to gather that information, our response time was too long. And so I think we've got some things in place right now that hopefully our response time can be better. But I think it's important that we continue to have this information, and it doesn't just happen here in a vacuum. We need to use this when we start to build out our board work plan, and we need to use this when we start to look at other things. So, I'm excited about the information. I'm a little shocked at some of it. One particular piece on the mental health section, 48% would feel comfortable seeking support for mental health. And then it's broken down by grade, 39% in grades 9 to 12, 48%, 7, 8. There's some work for us to do, right? And significant work to do. We've got some decent numbers. We want to get to 100% in a lot of other areas. But we've got some work to do. And I think it's really important that we do listen to this and get to work and support it through the director's work plan and our budget. So thank you for bringing this to us, and hopefully it becomes part of what we do on an ongoing basis.
Thank you, Trustee McDonald.
Thank you. Trustee Parisienne.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Do we have a mechanism that we're going to use the next time around to try to grab more than 45% of the high school students?
Through you, Chair. Yes, we will continue to support schools and look to provide that time in school to complete the survey. And we will talk to them about the data this time, that we only had the 45% and we certainly want to have more students. Depending on timing, we opened it for a week last time. In all honesty, it was 4 days because I think we butt up against a PA day. And so it looked like it was open from October 23rd to the 27th, but it was only 4 days. So we certainly can look at keeping it open a little bit longer if that is a barrier in the spring. So we will definitely strategize, and our goal would be to get in the grade 9 to 12, as well as, we were happy with 60% overall and 75% in 4 to 8. But again, if we're aiming high, we're aiming for 100 or as close to it in everything that we can. So we will strategize, but thank you for pointing that out.
Director Ferguson?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Just to add to that as well, I think going back to Trustee McDonald's point, the important part now is that we have this information. What do we do about it? And if students see that we actually take the data, the information they've given us, and make changes, then they're more likely, I think, to participate in those that maybe didn't. I know as a former high school principal, if you poll the students and they think you're not going to do anything with it, you don't get a high response rate. But when they start to see, hey, we're actually going to action this, I think you're going to see it. And I see student trustees nodding, so I think that that's probably accurate. That's been my experience. So early days, but when they see that we actually listen to them and action what they've told us, then it's worthwhile to participate.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, Trustee Labonte.
Thank you, Chair. Through you. As Trustee McDonald pointed out, we've got some challenging scores, but regardless of any of the scores, they're all aggregate scores. We do have school level input. Have we identified and/or are we dealing with any significant weaknesses at specific schools yet?
Through you, Chair. So part of the student voice session was each school was looking at their own data. So they could compare it to the board data, which we presented tonight, but they had their own school data. And so when they were looking at their individual schools, they were creating their action plans based on their data. They could do some comparison with the district. And then, of course, as they circulated the room and were provided time to connect with other schools, staff, and students, they were able to have those conversations. So yes, individual schools would have been able to highlight some data that stood out to them in both mental health and equity that they would want to focus their action plans on.
Great, thank you.
Welcome.
Once again, thank you for all your hard work. Excellent report. Moving on to item 11.3, a report of the student trustees, and I'll turn things over to student trustee Ali and student trustee Verk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you, we've been doing a fair bit of work over the past couple months just to work on some of the initial objectives we had with our student senate. We've gone through a couple meetings, collaborated with some of the other organizations that we're partnered with, and really happy to share those with you.
Through you, Chair. Since our last report to board, student trustee Work and I participated in many incredible opportunities and undertook many key initiatives that we look forward to presenting tonight. So starting off, on October 12th, we met with the Communications Department regarding Student Senate outreach and how we as student trustees and Student Senate as a whole can collaborate to enhance the understanding of our roles, the roles of student senators and Student Senate's initiatives. On October 19th to the 21st, OSTA held its fall general meeting, which was coordinated by Student Trustee Work. On October 26th, I chaired the Student Equity and Inclusion Committee welcome session. And on November 4th, Student Trustee Work and I had the incredible opportunity to attend the Ontario Public School Boards Association's regional meeting at Gananoque Secondary School. There we were introduced to a real-world learning project. We're able to connect with and hear about initiatives from other Ontario school boards, and we're able to provide a mini student trustees report there as well regarding events in the week prior.
Following that, on November 15th, we had our first supplementary meeting of the year. We were able to give Student Senate a bit of a new, fresh coat of paint with some branding and logo redesigns that were formally adopted at the time. The OSTA leadership team, of which I serve as the VP Events, we met once again online on November 18th just to discuss some of our organizational strategies and some of the projects that we hope to accomplish for the rest of the year. On November 29th, we joined a few of our fellow trustees and superintendents, as well as the director, on the UCDSB's consultation on on bell time changes and added more, just to be able to get a broader perspective on some of the science and data behind it, as well as prepare for our next session regarding the bell time changes, which took place at our Student Senate meeting. From December 1st to 3rd, I had the opportunity to join with AOSTA-ACO's leadership team in person in Toronto, just to be able to discuss a few more items in person, as well as debrief what occurred at our last fall general meeting and begin planning for our next conference as well. And so on a very exciting note, we had our first in-person Senate meeting in about 3 years over in Kemptville. There's a lot to talk about right now, so I think we'll just go over some of the primary items step by step. So moving back here to our AOSTA-ACO Fall General Meeting, it was hosted in downtown Toronto at the Marriott downtown, near the Eden Centre. It was a lot of work putting together some of the speaker lists, making sure that schedules were taken care of, and it was great to see everything just kind of fall right into the nice place. The day started off well on the 18th, greeting the 80-some student trustees all across Ontario. They were very happy to kind of be able to start their terms on a high note with this conference. Through some of the work that I've done coordinating some of these sessions with OPS President Kathy Abraham, as well as the Minister of Education, Stephen Lecce. The reception was very warm. Stephen Lecce, the Minister of Education, did present a keynote to our student trustees. After that followed a very brief question period where students were able to talk directly to the minister and get some of their own questions answered. Once again, wonderful reception to there. All of our public board student trustees met with Kathy Abraham, the Office for President, another keynote, as well as a few other guests that were able to do some wonderful professional development, including myself, where I held a very short workshop, with regards to planning community events. Given that I am the events planner for the organization, I thought, you know what, maybe I can do this. And I did. So following that, a few other AOSTA-ACO initiatives that we've been kind of working on over this year. We're updating our students' vision for education. So this started off as a document published in 2019 regarding some of the recommendations that AOSTA-ACO had to the Ministry of Education. And this is something that's being updated with a few more ideas, especially following the pandemic. That was published right in the pandemic, and since then, I don't need to tell you this, but a few things have changed, just a little bit. I'm sure we haven't had to do much reworking, but aside from that, we were able to also receive the chance to consult a little bit, our leadership team, on the accelerated apprenticeship pathways presented to the Ministry of Education. This was also presented, I believe, at the OPSPA meeting, so we had a bit of a we looked at it beforehand, and then afterwards it was presented for AOSTA-ACO to do a bit of consultation on as well. This year, we updated AOSTA-ACO's organizational structure. That reorganization happened last June. We're kind of seeing where this is taking us into the following years, what part of it's working and what parts of it you might need to examine. Upcoming initiatives following that, so our Education Action Conference, the first one that's ever been held, so we had a bit of a name change. And if you're wondering who came up with that name, it was yours truly. That is taking place in February 2024 in Ottawa. Following that, we'll be doing some more development on the Students' Vision for Education with hope to publish a new recommendations sometime this year, and a creation of a resource database happening from some of our wonderful public cabinet members at AOSTA-ACO to support the professional development of student trustees across Ontario.
With regards to Student Senate, in alignment with the board's logo redesign, Student Senate has officially adopted a new logo.
So we have a bit of a nice design here, and breaking it down, we can kind of see where that logo comes from. It's a bit of a redesign here. No, it's a, we followed with the board redesign a little bit and seeing what elements of the board that we did like and how we can take that into Student Senate to do not just a logo refresh, but a bit of a whole branding refresh, taking into some of the work that was already done by our wonderful communications department, taking into consideration their ideas as well as ideas from the Student Senate. And ultimately, after much deliberation, our logo is here. So a bit of a breakdown of what that logo looks like. We have Student Senate front and center in the logo right there. displayed, and UCDSB in nice bright text, kind of in line with the text and spacing of the regular UCDSB logo as well. We have students portrayed hand in hand in the two-tone colors that we have on the UCDSB logo, that UCDSB dark blue and then the UCDSB red as well, with the typography being changed to Clear Sans, which is the current font in use in most UCDSB publications. The two-tone border reflects both of our Student Senate colors, the red maple leaf that we had in the original logo, and then the blue shield, which we've kind of combined together. And if you look kind of carefully, squint your eyes maybe a lot, you can kind of see how it resembles the map of Canada, where you have like sort of Quebec on the like right side of the flag, and then it extends out into, well, I guess you can kind of see it there, and then the little tip of Ontario at the bottom. We had a mix of various geometric and organic shapes, but really the whole thing kind of creates a clean and fluent design. Oh, okay. Sorry. I'm looking to see where we are here, but I think, yeah. So the Student Senate supplementary meeting, it was just a motion carried to approve a new logo and update our logo following that extensive review and voting process. We've established a Senate Teams page where we can do a bit of asynchronous discussion and some planning between meetings, and we've formally established some working groups for school outreach, social media, and event planning. And you can see the logo candidates on the right. Some of those were proposed both by our student senators and tweaked upon by some conversations with our communications department as well, with the first design ultimately winning.
On December 6th, Student Senate held its first in-person session since 2020 at the Equinel Presentation Center in Kemptville. The agenda featured many key items, including consultation regarding the bell time switch. So following presentations from Carleton Place High School Principal Casey Nelson, psychologist Dr. David Armstrong, and Waterloo Region District School Board student Fei-Young Liu, regarding student sleep times. A questions and answers period was also held with senators, bringing forward their perspectives and comments, and a motion was introduced in support of the proposed bell time switch, with the voting student senators placing their positions and all senators providing feedback. The motion was defeated 9-15, with 38% in favor and 62% not in favor.
Some of the key takeaways from that presentation, it was very well received among senators, the fact that there was a lot of board transparency and that we were able to have students get their direct voices heard. So a lot of positive reception was done from the session itself. It was great to have Director Ferguson, as well as Principal Nelson and the Waterloo, Dr. Armstrong, and Waterloo student Fei-Young Liu. Some of the stuff that we noticed from students with regards to what their opinions sort of were with the whole idea. Many of them did understand the science, and I think you mentioned this as well, Dr. Ferguson. They did believe the science, and they did understand that it does benefit student mental health to some degree. What their main concern was how much it would benefit them versus some of the potential ideas that might need to be worked on with regards to that. They did have some concerns that were very well answered by Director Ferguson as well. And overall, it was just a great opportunity for students to have their own ideas deliberated upon. They were able to work towards talking about what they did. And many of them were still in favor overall of like a later start time. It's just some of the ways that our messaging kind of looked like, whether that would be at 9:30 or potential other time that could be looked at. But overall, it was a great session, and we really applaud the efforts of our senior administration in helping put that together. Students felt very confident that they're able to work with the board on this.
So we also broke out into working groups for the first time, and discussions and reports by senators on awareness and fundraising campaigns, which right now we do have a focus on mental health. Students and outreach through media and potential board-wide initiatives was also explored.
We're working on a revision of some of our Student Senate bylaws that were presented to senators. We're still collecting feedback, and those bylaws will be voted on following our next Student Senate meeting. And moving on to our social media outreach, we've begun, putting together some new posts on our Student Senate social media pages, including Instagram. With the new logo that we've just done with our visual refresh, you can see some of the posts that we've been doing is a bit more organic. A few periodic posts have been made on our regular student senate meetings. Student trustees report to board. If that little video looks familiar to you, I think we've been there before. But a few dates of significance. So we did a post on World Hello Day that was brought up by one of our senators during the meeting, and a couple other student initiatives we're hoping to do. So more work is going to be done to expand our Senate reach through social media, tied into many of our other campaigns. And a very quick media session was done with senators following the December meeting for use in potential other future outreach campaigns.
So with regards to the Student Equity and Inclusion Committee, the committee has now expanded to have 2 equity reps per school rather than 1, and now includes 4 elementary schools featuring 7 to 8 representation. The committee's welcome session was held on October 26th, and it was chaired by myself. A meetings and interest survey was also sent to the equity reps to examine their views on the committee's operation over the year. And using our platform as an inclusive space, collaboration was made between the senior team and equity reps to facilitate awareness initiatives such as guest speakers in schools. So it was a productive session.
So just looking at some of the survey results here, we did put out that survey to all of our equity reps. 32 have responded so far. We're also allowing for the opportunity for more responses. Many of them did prefer a earlier meeting time at around 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock. So that seems to be the structure going forward with those. Regarding the frequency of meetings, many of them were in support of having it either every 2 or 3 weeks or potentially every month. There was a bit of a split on that. But they are ready to continue our meetings. And with regards to how long we should meet, they thought 1 hour is really much enough for us to get our ideas down. So following this data, we are deciding to take that into account to shape our meetings going forward.
And once again, to ensure that we keep in mind scheduling and timings that work best for the equity reps, we've discovered that many of the reps are senior students. However, we also feature a fair amount of intermediate representatives from all schools, which is great for ensuring that we empower student voice throughout all grades. And moving on to the other part of that slide, a term that is often used in the Student Equity and Inclusion Committee meetings is that equity is a broad topic. With that theme in mind, equity representatives were asked what equity topics are they most interested in and would like to explore within this committee. This information will provide us with an outlook to ensure that we focus on what the students are interested in, while also diversifying the topics we explore through different methods such as collaboration groups and guest presentations. So it seems that the equity reps are very interested in mental health and disability awareness / special education, while also race and religion to LGBTQIA+, Indigenous ed, and youth-facing poverty. So a few conclusions from that survey are that the meeting dates and timings are being planned within accordance with what the equity reps have provided us, the information they provide us, and discussions have occurred with Superintendent Perry regarding presentations from the special education / disability awareness and mental health departments, as well as ensuring open discussion periods following the presentations with the equity representatives to allow for questions regarding the equity education surrounding these topics in the schools. And an open discussion question was also proposed in the survey regarding equity-centered groups within their own schools. And this will allow for opportunities for collaboration and empowering the equity representatives to take on that leadership role if they choose to develop a committee focused on equity within their schools. And the next Student Equity Inclusion Committee will be held on December 14th, tomorrow, from 10 to 11 a.m. These results, as well as information regarding the UCDSB Holocaust Education Week and the UCDSB Significant Faith Days calendar, will be explored.
Moving into some of our roadmaps, and as well, although this year is coming to a close, fortunately our term is not for now. So we got a couple more ideas that we want to work through over the next couple months. First of which, coming up in January, is going to be our bylaw revisions to allow for more inclusive hybrid settings and also tweaking our elections process a little bit. Following that, some student Senate outreach projects. This was one of the first things that we mentioned throughout this year, is being able to elevate student voice and also making sure that some of the amazing work that is done through a Senate each year is further publicized. We have noticed some work being done in that just the fact that senators are being more active as well, having these in-person sessions, and a lot of social media has been shared. So I've noticed that senators are, for instance, posting some of the stuff that comes from a Senate onto their own personal social media accounts, and with them being connected to their own schools, it leaves students asking, well, what is this? What is Senate? What are you guys doing over here? This looks like an interesting session. So some of the outreach that we've been doing for social media, we've seen some progress, and we're really hoping to work on that even further. Perhaps some outreach videos and some of the other work that, in collaboration with our student senators and other outreach groups. Following those bylaw revisions, a campaign is to be launched through Senate, seeking those motivated students across the board to run for student trustee and putting in greater transition supports to help ease that transition for new student trustees coming in, possibly in line with some of the stuff that's being done with Osta ACO.
And per our Senate fundraiser initiative that year, we have started planning. Currently, we're looking to also hold additional sessions in between meetings to make sure that we receive as much information as well as provide information to the senators ahead of officially deciding the Senate fundraiser of the year.
And with that said, we'd like to thank all of you for supporting some of the work that we've done as well. It's great to see the senior administration and trustees involved in our meetings. They've provided valuable discussion and have helped out with many of our work so far, as well as our student equity and inclusion committees. And with that said, I have nothing else to say further, so that ends it.
Wow, amazing. You've both been very busy. Are you getting any sleep?
2 hours, 2.5. I don't know. The science of sleep, that's something we can look into. Maybe a later start time might help with that. It'll give us maybe, if we're lucky, 4 whole hours.
Are there any questions or comments? Trustee Parisienne.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, just a comment. I think we're all kind of, including Dr. Ferguson over there, it's all good. But your presentation was phenomenal. You've given us you've taken it to a much larger than just a report, but given us a true insight as what you two have been doing since the beginning of the school year and what the projects you have coming forward. So thank you very much for keeping us extremely well informed, and we do appreciate that because our number one thing is to hear the student's voice. So thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Dufour?
I had mentioned the same thing to you before today. I'm really impressed with your work, and I'm feeling that actually everybody that is in your group has a voice and that you are respecting those voices and inviting them. So I'm hoping that it is going to the school also. And I just want to say thank you for both of you for what you're doing.
Thank you very much for that outstanding report. Brings us to 11:04, and I'll call upon Executive Superintendent of Business Services, Mr. Hobbs, to give us an oversight on the governance model, past, present, and future for our board.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'll just jump right into the next slide. The purpose of this presentation really is to provide you a bit of a brief overview of the evolution of governance structures since amalgamation. And my intention here is not to make any recommendations or anything, but just to sort of lay out a little bit of the history for you. And as I was thinking about this presentation, I guess, over the course of the last couple of weeks, since Director Ferguson asked for it, I happened to be watching a movie and at home, and it was, there's lots of movies like this, but characters are in an old building, a hospital or a school somewhere. They're trying to figure out something that happened way back in the past, and no one seems to know the history. But someone remembers there's a weird old guy who lives in the basement next to a boiler, and maybe he'll know. And it just occurred to me at that time, I'm that guy now. So here I am to present a bit of the man from the basement, to present a bit of history on governance in the Upper Canada District School Board. In all seriousness, I've been around almost as long as Trustee McDonald, since joining the board in about 2004, and have seen a few iterations and have actually listened with great interest as trustees have deliberated how the governance model has served them over the years. And I'll share with you what I can remember, and also what Lisa Workman and Christy Carter have pieced together by sort of perusing back through the minutes. So just to level set, as even for myself, it was really useful to go back to the OPSPA, some of the OPSPA education materials on school board governance, and to just reflect on what the role of school board governance really is. And as you know, you're accountable, of course, for the fiscal and overall performance of the school district, for the academic achievements of students and the well-being of students and your staff, all of which have been discussed tonight in one measure or another. where the board's succeeding and where the board's struggling to meet its expectations. And I think whenever you're looking at a governance model, no matter what kind of organization, it's important to view it through the lens of what the governance is intended to achieve for the organization. And so the why and the what a little bit is the purpose of the governance structure is really there to ensure that there's a plausible strategy for achieving the organization's mission, that progress is being made towards achieving the mission, and that the risks to that organization are being managed appropriately. So at a very high level, is the organization healthy and moving in the right direction? And I think, as someone who's involved in not-for-profit governance myself, it's entirely appropriate to periodically review whether those governance structures, to take an inventory of what's there, and also to assess whether the structures are best suited to meet the current and future needs of the board. And so over the past 25 years, as I said, the governance structures have evolved, and I'll just walk you through a very brief history and maybe talk a little bit about some things you may want to consider going forward. So this is very small print, and I had to bring this up on my screen to be able to ensure I can read it myself. But Lisa has been an enormous asset because of her long history sort of supporting board governance. But what I would say is that this table sort of shows you the evolution and some of the key sort of points of punctuation throughout the course of the last few years and how those governance structures have evolved. And so when I started back in 2004, there were really two major committees, finance and operations and program and education. I remember attending a finance meeting at Viscount Alexander with Trustee McDonald talking about open seats on school buses way back in 2004. There's a nominating committee, a spec ed committee, advisory SEAC, and of course suspension, appeal, and expulsion. And Lisa actually even pointed out that there may have been a policy committee for a brief period in around there as well. And at the time, there was one board meeting a month. And in around 2006, as I recall, there was some discussion among the board about people feeling like we were on a committee and things were coming to the board table and people didn't feel like they were involved enough in terms of the discussion and how things got to the board table. So at that point, we dispensed with the program and finance committees and instead went to a committee of the whole kind of structure where everybody saw everything all the time. And the trade-off for that was instead of having one board meeting a month, we had two board meetings a month that were sort of combined committee of the whole and board. And then, over time, through the board's own initiative or through sort of demands that were, for lack of a better term, imposed outside, external to the organization, there were a number of additional committees were created. So as you see in 2011, the audit committee was formally instituted. And PIC was also instituted. In 2012, they actually had the Accountability Framework Committee that was added and also the Trustee Innovation Awards. 2015, we sort of brought Sal around. So former Director Sliwa was instrumental in sort of retooling that a little bit and getting that back up and running. And then in 2019, policy, and then and so on with Trustee PD. So where we sit in 2023 by our count is around 10 sort of committees and work groups plus 2 board meetings a month, which is quite an evolution when you actually go back and look at it from where we landed in 2006. And I think on top of that, you were also trustees, even though these aren't things that are strictly related to governance, we know that trustees are involved in OPSPA, not directly involved in the governance per se of the board, but important nonetheless for governance. And also entities like UCLC and Champions, all of which have pretty significant demands on your time and attention, which I know you give happily. So on the next slide, just some observations from the guy in the basement. So, as I said, prior to 2006, there was 1 board meeting per month and 2 board committees, in addition to committees that were required by the Education Act at the time. And again, as I said, that's evolved in response to requirements that have been sort of demanded of the board by the Ministry of Education or other entities, and also by the will of the board itself in response to totally appropriately the changing needs and changing pressures on the board. So as it stands right now, of course, we have those 10 committees, 2 board meetings a month, STIO, which I should not neglect, Champions for Kids, Upper Canada, Leger Centre, and also OPSPA, all of which are fairly demanding of trustee time on an ongoing basis, representing about 15 different bodies in total, all of which admittedly don't meet every single month. The only conclusion or the observation I would draw from that, based on my own kind of experience with not-for-profit entities and not as a school board trustee, of course, is it just seems very heavy and complex, which I'm sure you've probably noticed, given you're the ones who are making that incredible commitment to public education. So going forward, just some things you may want to think about. My intent again tonight was just to sort of present a little bit of the history. Is that, again, I would say my experience has been committees and other structures, to the extent that you have latitude to change them, are really tools put in place to assist you in conducting the work of the board. And boards will, within the limits of their authority, will quite rightly adjust those structures as needed over time. And as you saw, our board has done over the course of the last 15 or 16 or 17 years. And given that it's grown significantly, it may be the kind of thing where you want to, it's a natural time for you to step back and look at, take inventory of what you've got and where you've been and where you see yourselves going in the future, and maybe revisit some of these structures to make sure they're working for you as you need. So just in summary, governance structures, again, intended to efficiently facilitate the work of the board. You have some latitude, of course, to design those structures to meet your needs for the transparency, accountability, and efficiency. And since 2006, of course, I think the one big observation is that things seem to have grown. And you may wish to give, as time has gone on for the last 17 years, there's been sort of, as needs arise, new structures have sprung up. But sometimes it's also good to step back and take a more holistic view of the structures and say, is it serving us well? And if so, we proceed as is. And if we want to make some changes, maybe it's an opportune time to think about what those changes are. But recognizing it's not really my domain to make recommendations about specifically what those are. I guess you'd talk amongst yourselves and engage some third-party experts potentially if that's what you felt you needed. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. I have a question, if I may. Given the fact that there are 15 bodies operating at the current time, and you pointed out that it is a commitment on our part, but it also, am I correct in saying, is a commitment on the part of staff as well? Because each of those committees is probably comprised of at least one staff person as a representative on the committee. So my question would be, having been here yourself, has the increase in these bodies increased the amount of time that staff must contribute, and has that time, if it has been increased, affected the efficiency and effectiveness of what staff does?
I would guess that I and all my colleagues that I work with over the years recognize that, we're here to serve the needs of the board, and if the board needs us, we're going to be there as needed. So it would be a really difficult judgment to make and say I've put in a bunch more hours because there's more committees, but it's something I just candidly don't think about that much, to be honest with you.
Director Ferguson?
Through you, Mr. Chair. As Executive Superintendent Hobbs has said, we're here to assist trustees in doing their job. Senior team also have a lot of other things that they're doing as well. And so any time that they're spending preparing for board meetings or for committee meetings, obviously there's only so many hours in the day. They're not spending that time. The academic SO is working in their school or building schools or those things. So that's just the reality of how it is. But as Executive Superintendent Hobbs said, we are able to do both and are happy to do what the board sees fit with our time.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so I guess, trustees, we thank you for the presentation, and I guess it's up to us perhaps to have some discussions around the presentation and see if we want to remain status quo or perhaps tweak some things. We'll see where it goes. That brings us to items 12.1 to 12.3. I would draw those to your attention. And Those are information items. And so we arrive at 13, which is adjournment. And I would ask, thank you, so moved by Trustee Labonte, seconded by Trustee Dufour, that the regular meeting in public session of the Upper Canada District School Board, December 13th, 2023, be adjourned at 7:52. The next regular meeting is scheduled for January 17th, 2024. Thank you, everybody, for your time. Oh, sorry. Yes. All in favor of that motion? Opposed? Thank you for your time.